Jujutsu Kaisen. Chapter 2, 155 spoilers are here. In this chapter, we see that Miguel didn't come alone to fight Sukuna. We understand the circumstances of Miguel's appearance, and we get an answer to something we were wondering about since Gojo's defeat. The chapter starts where the last one ends. Alongside Miguel, we see LaRue from Gato's old gang has also joined the battle. It's worth mentioning that the appearance of LaRue makes a lot of sense because LaRue only wanted to see Suguru become king and unaligned himself with the other curse users after his death. LaRue has since become an ally of Yuki Tsukumo. So, after Gato's death, LaRue switched sides. On the next page, we jump into a flashback to Yuta discussing with Miguel and LaRue. Miguel rejects Yuta's request to fight Sukuna, saying, why does he have to fight a monster who has the possibility to win against Gojo? LaRue then tries to convince Miguel, saying, I am just asking you to help us deliver the final blow to the otherworldly being, Sukuna, who'll be burned out after fighting Gojo Satoru, Miguel-chan, Yuta, and LaRue try to convince Miguel by telling him that it's better to fight Sukuna rather than a giant cursed spirit, talking about the merger, which could just stomp a whole country like Godzilla. But Miguel again declines their offer, saying, why do you Japanese people think that cheerful black people will just survive anything? Miguel adds that Gojo should have come to him with his head down in front of him to request him to help. And this last dialogue between Yuta and Miguel is making me think about Sukuna's strength. Yuta here looks desperate when he is trying to convince Miguel. It appears that Yuta doesn't feel if Gojo is defeated they can take down Sukuna by themselves. Or maybe Yuta was being extra careful and trying to bring any strong ally they could rely on. Either way, this just demonstrates how frightening Sukuna's strength. After that, LaRue and Miguel have a private talk. Miguel says he did everything because he wanted to follow Geto. He also fulfilled his obligation of training Yuta because Gojo saved him. So, he doesn't want to be involved with Japan anymore. LaRue adds that they should fight with everything they have and tell Geto to take care in heaven, to which Miguel responds by saying, first of all, he definitely went to hell, talking about Geto. And I guess now I understand how Miguel survived the fight against Gojo. I guess Gojo spared his life in return of training Yuta. This is just a guess though from Miguel saying that Gojo saved him. Anyway, on the next page, Miguel says he has a condition. He will fight Sukuna after Gojo and Yuta loses, and when Sukuna can't use his domain anymore. He also wants LaRue to join him to fight Sukuna, because it's better if he has more friends. This shows the strategic side of Miguel. During the fight against Gojo, Miguel knew his limitations. He was aware that he couldn't win, so he just focused on stalling Gojo, allowing Gato to go after Yuta. And here we see that Miguel is doing the same thing. He knows that he has no chance of defeating a full power Sukuna, so all his conditions are intended to enhance his chances to win. Now, back to the present. Miguel and LaRue notice that Sukuna can't use domain expansion. His reverse curse technique has been weakened and his heart isn't healed yet. LaRue uses his cure technique to grab hold of Sukuna and slams him to a wall. Sukuna sends slashes toward them, but Miguel easily ducks, dodges, and even jumps in between them. Next, the narrator explains that LaRue's cursed technique, Heart Catch, can grab the subject. The imaginary hand will restore itself even if it's destroyed, but a tenth of the damage will be redirected back to LaRue. Sukuna thinks LaRue's cursed technique is no fun, but Miguel's is. His cursed technique is called Hakuna Lana. Miguel's cursed technique helps his body to catch a rhythm, dodge curses, and enhance his physical abilities. Now, it's worth mentioning that Jova, the person translating the chapter and providing the leaks, tells us the translation of Miguel's curse technique isn't 100% accurate, and we should take it with a grain of salt. Either way, let's just take that Miguel's cursed technique allows him to dodge attacks and enhance his physical abilities. And this technique is perfect for stalling Sukuna. I mean, let's be honest, we all know that Miguel and LaRue are not taking Sukuna down. Chances are their main objective is to stall Sukuna while the others recover and regroup. And Miguel's curse technique is perfect for this. It's a defensive ability that allows him to prolong the fight while the others come up with a plan to fight back. On the next page, we go to a short flashback to Gojo explaining Miguel's curse technique to Yuta. Gojo says Miguel's curse technique brings out buffs and debuffs of himself and the opponent without using a domain. Gojo adds that it's a pretty useful curse technique, but not a scary one. Gojo says Miguel's physical abilities are truly frightening. 99% of Jujutsu sorcerers are Japanese, and they use cursed energy to strengthen themselves. Gojo further adds that Miguel, who has a rare skeletal structure and muscles, becomes a threat compared to a Japanese sorcerer. Miguel refutes Gojo's statement, saying Gojo is labeling him as that because he's black, and that's just discrimination. There are black people who are non-athletic. Back to the fight. Miguel grabs hold of Sukuna's arms and lands a heavy punch. Immediately, Sukuna's back is hit with Chozo's supernova. Yuji rejoins the fight! He directly lands on Sukuna and slams him. The narrator explains that to activate World Slash, Sukuna has to use a hand sign named Enmaten, which is also used for Malevolent Shrine. But since Sukuna was left with just one arm after Gojo's final Hollow Purple, he used a binding vow to send World Slash on Gojo without a hand sign. But after transforming into his old form, Sukuna now has to use both the hand sign Enmaten and incantation to activate World Slash. On top of that, Sukuna also needs to set the direction for the slash with his hands. Next, Sukuna's left arm gets sliced off as he was confronting Yuji. It was Maki who cut off Sukuna's arm, and she does it with a crazed smile on her face. Sukuna is surprised to see Maki back even after receiving that black flash from him. Yuji proceeds to engage in the fight while thinking that Sukuna can't complete his hand sign because he's left with only 2 right arms and he can't use reverse curse technique yet either. So, they can win the fight now. But, as if to pour water on Yuji's hopes, Sukuna instantly hits LaRue with Black Flash. The narrator says Gojo regained his Revise Cursed technique output with his second Black Flash, so the King of Curses now may have regained his Reverse Cursed technique. We truly don't know if Sukuna got back his RCT. The next chap will clear that fact. The narrator just used Gojo as an example here. The chapter ends with the editor's comment at the end. The black light shines sinisterly. No break next week. In my opinion, this chapter is as good as it gets. I mean, we got an action-packed chapter, and we got a lot of answers to our questions. First, we get to know how and why Miguel appeared at that exact moment. We learned about his curse technique. This, in my opinion, explained also how he was able to stall Gojo during the parade of 100 demons. Essentially, his curse technique enhances his physical abilities while nerfing the cursed energy of his opponent. And we get an answer to something that has been bothering me since the battle with Gojo, which is why Gojo didn't see the World Slash coming, especially after Maki and Kusakabe were able to predict it. In this chapter, we get our answer. Many had already predicted this, but it's good to get an official confirmation. Sukuna used a binding vow to send World Slash on Gojo without a hand sign. I can't wait for the next chapter. Thank you so much for watching. I can't wait to see your comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe.